This is the burl table that the woman brought me. She had used some kind of acetone on this and the markers that you saw on the very first picture. So she felt very sad because she loved this piece of furniture, and so I thought I would try to make it as good as I could. Now here is the before. You can see it's very glossy, which I do like, but you can see in the reflection all of the damage. Now this woman is the same woman that I used the Howard Feed and Wax to help her coffee table look better. And we will have another video about that. So if you haven't seen that, look around April. So I'll be posting that soon, but I'm posting it earlier. So you can see the gloss and you can see the blemishes. So now what is this, you may ask? It is the Miracle Eraser from Mr. Clean. And how did I think of this? Facebook groups. So I belong to a few Facebook groups that have to deal with restoring furniture. And oh my goodness, they are so helpful because I talked to at least 6 people here in town who are woodworkers. And when I explained to them about what I was doing, they said, oh, I wouldn't do that. Or they said, oh, I'd make sure I sanded right down to the very bottom. But this is burled veneer, and I didn't know how thick it was. I don't want to make it horrible and make it's somebody else's furniture, right? So you have to be more careful than if you're just flipping furniture and you can paint over it if you don't like it, right? Right. So somebody said use the magic eraser from Mr. Clean, and I'm showing you all of the ink that had come off because what had happened, I believe, is she used the wrong color of the markers, and so it was a lot darker and purpley looking. So anyway, this worked so well. I give it a thumbs up, and I get extremely happy about it. If you hear any birds in the background, I'm on my front porch at about 6 o'clock in the morning, and the birds are welcoming everybody to go to work today. So if you're going to work today, or someone you love is going to work today, have a great day. So now I am just covering the whole thing with the magic eraser because I don't know what other things are on here, and I also want to make the top uniform. As in, if I do one area, I want to do the whole thing. So I'm giving a thumbs up, and I'm so happy. So happy. So thank you, Facebook groups. You guys are awesome. Okay, so now I'm cleaning it off with a white cloth just to see how much dirt or residue's been on there. And it actually was a little bit, the stain came off or something. Now I went to the local family-owned shop like Lowe's, but it's called Hardware Sales. And I talked to the guys there. I'm using here 320 grit sandpaper to try to make the bump less obvious. And when I was talking to them, I said I wanted it shiny, and I also asked what could I put on it to make it look nice. So I did watch about 20 videos about how to fix this kind of wood, and it looked so bad afterwards. I didn't see any that looked good. So my first go-to was seeing if Howard Restore Finish would work, and I'll just tell you right now, it does not. So I do like it for many things, but for shiny surfaces, I thought it looked really bad. So then the problem was how Restore Finish can go over most things, but most things cannot go over Restore Finish. So then I was at Hardware Sales, thank you guys, and I asked the lovely woman who worked there, who just got to work, I said, what do I use to get the Restore Finish off this product because you can't put things on it? And she said, oh, look, there's an 800 number. So I called up Restore a Finish 800 number at the store when I was there. And the woman who worked there answered quickly. And I said to her, how do I remove it, Restore a Finish, if I don't like it? But I do like it, but it's not on this piece. And she said, oh, just use low odor mineral spirits. How wonderful. So I called my dad from the store, and he has mineral spirits. And so I went home, and you'll see in a little bit that I use the mineral spirits to remove all of this. If you do use Restore a Finish, make sure that you use 4-aught steel wool, and that's 4 zeros. I don't know why they just don't say 40, but if you're cool, I guess you say 4-aught steel wool. I think that's funny. Anyway, and then another thing, it says go with the grain of the wood. Burled wood has no specific grain. It goes everywhere. So, yeah, that was another thing that was a little bit frustrating because I'm like, I don't know how to make this go with the grain because the grain goes everywhere. Anyway. So it is a pretty piece, burled wood veneer in little squares. And as I wipe it off, I will give it a thumbs down. Then I talked to my brother-in-law. He's a guy who fixes cars. He does paint jobs. He knows everything. And he suggested the compound. I can't remember what it's called right now. But if you ever look at like bars at restaurants and it's that really high gloss stuff, that's what he would have suggested. However, this was not my piece. I didn't want to make it look horrible, and that stuff's really hard to get off, so I didn't want to do that. So here are the mineral spirits, which I am now holding up a cloth weirdly. I don't know why I'm doing that, to get the mineral spirits off. No, I'm sorry, to get the Howard Restore a Finish off. So once again, Restore a Finish can go over almost anything, but rarely can you put anything over that. So if you have Restore a Finish on something, you have to remove it if you want to you should resand it, or use mineral spirits if you want to put a new gloss over or something like that. But of course, Howard Feed and Wax, it's very easy to put on top of anything. And we did have a little debate on my channel about that. And Restore a Finish, I keep on getting them mixed up. The Howard Feed and Wax is like a polish. So if you are going to use it on something that's used all the time and you clean it off all the time, well, first of all, you're supposed to wait 30 days to make sure it's 100% dry. Then, if you're going to, if you use it on a coffee table or a real dining room table, you need to polish it every once in a while. So it is not like a poly coat. But even those, after a while, you need to polish, really. So there's nothing that will make everything perfect forever. Because why? Nothing's perfect. So here I am covering up the base of the table. I don't want to get anything sprayed on that, so I'm getting ready to spray on the lacquer. I chose the lacquer because I originally thought that this kind of look was the lacquer, so I chose the high gloss, and sadly, I think it didn't turn out so well because when I was doing this piece, it was about 50 degrees Fahrenheit in my garage, and my house is very warm. Here's the lacquer. However, this is really stinky, so you have to wear a breathing apparatus unless you want to get a headache like I did the first time. So if you see me, my face, I don't have a breathing apparatus, and after about 10 minutes, I'm like, oh, whoa, I'm getting ill feeling. So I opened up the garage door and the other door for cross ventilation, and then I put on the breathing mask so I get the VOCs not in my head. Yeah, really stupid. Always wear something so you're not breathing this stuff in. So that's why I walked away. I'm opening up doors and getting my breathing apparatus. So now you can see what it looks like with one spray, and it's not supposed to look not shiny. And it does say that you can, within like a few seconds or so, you can put more layers on. But if you walk away for more than 6 hours, then you do have to sand it. So that's what I did. So now it looks a little bit more shiny. But I really wanted it to look shiny, shiny. Not, yeah, see, what the heck? So this is called orange peel. And I looked online how to get rid of that as well. And they said you needed to sand with very fine grit. So I got 1500 grit and 2500 grit, and it's wet grit. And so I looked online again, and they said, everybody, I watched like 5 videos, and every single person said you have to use soapy water. So I was like, oh, okay, soapy water. Well, keep this in mind. If you have a veneer and there are any kinds of cracks or something in it, then the water may or may not go inside of the little cracks. So when I first did this, there was a tiny crack that I didn't even see. And afterwards, I freaked out because I'm like, oh my gosh, to my husband, there's a little bump that wasn't there. Well, after it dried and everything, it went away. But just please be very careful if it's not your furniture to probably not do this kind of work, because it gave me nightmares. And oh my gosh, I am not a procrastinator, but I was like, okay, let's do my whole yard and let's go on a vacation and then I'll do it, because I didn't want to ruin somebody else's furniture, which I think at the end did turn out fine. So here I'm using my dad's old white t-shirts. Whenever he doesn't like them for some reason, he then donates them to my cause, and I will use them for doing work. Now I'm feeling it, and I tell you, it feels like butter. So although I do see that some of the blotchiness that was there, not blotchiness, well, what happened is I sprayed about, I'd say, 20 coats of lacquer, because one of the videos said, since you're going to have to sand it a little bit, you want to have a lot of coats. So I did about 10 coats. Then I waited a day. I gently sanded, and I did 10 more coats. And then I waited for a week to make sure it was 100% dry. Then I did this with the very high grit sandpaper, and I was so sad that I could see the little errors again. I'm like, really? Before, I couldn't see them. So I sound like a cow when I do that, huh? Anyway. So here's what it looks like. So this is 320 sandpaper. Trying to get the item as shiny as possible. And I believe this is out of sequence, sorry to say. The way I make my videos is normally when they get recorded, they just load themselves properly. And this one was the first, before I wet sanded it, I did sand it with 320. And that was after at least 6 hours of dry time. I actually probably had it about 12 hours. It was overnight. So after I sanded it with 320 grit, I then cleaned it off, and then I sprayed it again, and then I let it stay for a week without touching it. I'm just trying to make it as smooth as possible and to get it more shiny looking. More shiny looking to get it shinier looking. All right, so here's what it looks like. I think this is after the, okay, so this is after the 320, after the night, and then here I did it right there. Yeah, so once again, you spray the lacquer on. You can do multiple coats, but if you let it wait for more than 6 hours, you have to sand in between. So unlike polyurethane, where they want you to sand between each coat, it's not the same with lacquer. It doesn't need it to. It will bond by itself. Then, afterwards, when you're all done, that's when you do the wet sanding. Also, they are very specific that you have to shake this for at least 2 minutes. Oh my gosh. And you're supposed to hold it 8 to 12 inches away from the table. And I actually used a little ruler to make sure, because, you think you know what you're doing, but how long is 8 to 10 inches? 8 to 12 inches. And then also learning from the YouTube channels, always spray over, like to go past where you're going so you don't glob it on. And I did not cover the legs this time because the first time I did it, I realized the spray wasn't going over it. So once again, I believe I am opening up the doors because this is stinky stuff. And I'm going in different ways to help make the lines not so visible. Because I was very surprised that it wasn't as smooth as I thought it should turn out. And after I delivered this, I did suggest to the lovely lady whose furniture this is that she should get a piece of glass and put over it. So I let it stay here in my hallway where there's heat coming in for about a week. And then I did the wet sanding. I then let it dry out, and so I thought to myself I would use the MinWax for buffing this out. And I tell you, I found so many people who said different stuff. So one person said you should use a ceramic glaze wax. I could not find that. Some people said you should use Carnauba car wax. The people at the local store had no idea what to use on lacquer. So I was like, oh, this is so sad. And it says, once again, to put the wax on with the grain. Burled wood, grain goes crazy. So where there was some grain that went a certain way, I kind of went with that. But then I'm thinking to myself, this is it's a lacquered piece. Does it really matter if it goes with the grain or not? So I don't think it really matters. But I did use 2 coats of this. And it says that you can polish it once it becomes a kind of cloudy gray color. So I did that 2 times. And then it just didn't get shiny. So I went with my favorite Howard Feeden wax, and I did the 3rd coat of that. So once again, Howard Feeden wax can go over almost everything, but not anything can go over it. Now, I do know that Transcend Furniture, she has a lovely channel. Her stuff is probably my favorite. And she uses Odie's oil, and that is kind of high-end, expensive, but you only use a tiny bit of it. So then I wondered if that would have worked. But I've never seen it at the store, so I think I have to go online and buy it. That's my next idea. And these videos are about an hour long or a half an hour, and so it gives kind of a wrong impression that it takes such little time to do this. But this is not sped up, and this is how long it takes to wax, because you want to do a good job and you don't want to miss anything. So I'm going in every individual square. And feel free to put this on times 2. Normally, I don't know why I didn't speed this up, but I was editing this late at night, and then I woke up this morning and said, oh, I'm awake at 6 in the morning. I think I'll do my little voiceover. This MinWax wax also is kind of stinky. So that's why I also like Howard Feed and Wax, because it smells like oranges. And I don't know why not everybody makes yummy smelling stuff. Now I do have other waxes, but they are white before you put them on. And I have a black side table that I I didn't flip it. I fixed it up. I didn't sell it. I kept it for my bedroom, and it was a shiny black. So I thought, oh, I'll try this wax on it. It's supposed to be clear. Well, in all of the little edges or the grooves, it turned out white. So either I didn't buff it well enough, or that's what happens. However, I like the way it turned out, so I'm pleased. So I'm not changing it, but that made me think this piece of furniture came with a whole bunch of little natural holes that the wood had. And so every single person who came over, I asked them to look at the table and tell me what they saw that wasn't right. And everybody pointed out those little natural flaws. So wood has little flaws in them. So hello people, I meant to say there are some places here that I thought maybe you could see the errors really, specifically, but nobody could. So I was very pleased. And I'm not going to bring that up on this channel because the owner may or may not listen to this, and I don't want her to spend time looking at the flaws. So if she doesn't see them, they don't exist. That's the same about everybody, right? If you don't know about it, it doesn't exist. And I am doing some pressure with my fingers on there to try to rub it in nicely. And then after this, I went back to the store and I bought some little polishing pads to see if I can make it shinier. And yeah, it's never going to look the way it looked when she brought it as shininess, unless she brought it to a professional people who would spend a lot of, people who do this perfectly, they get paid a lot of money here locally. So I don't think this table cost maybe more than $350, but I think that it would cost that much to get it restored to be exactly the way it was. So if I can make it, so nobody can tell, then that's great. And if she puts the piece of glass over it, it will be protected, and then also that one more layer will hide anything that anybody could see, like the non-glossiness of the top. Yeah, also a funny story while I'm waxing this very slowly. Last weekend, I was visiting friends and locked my keys in the van. And it cost about $290 for a lovely man from Israel who now lives in America to open it up for us. And it took him about 10 minutes. And you pay people for their knowledge and experience, not for how long something takes. So woodworking is a little bit different because I think the better you are, the longer it takes. Everybody I talked to said they would have sanded this down, and I think that probably was the best idea, but I didn't want to ruin the wood. But if somebody charges you something for something, keep in mind that you're also paying for their hours of experience.
GoPro, stop recording.
Okay, so here's what it looks like. I like to have it different angles so you can see. But do you see how it's not so shiny? Oh, it broke my heart. And I sanded it and I did what they said online. So now I'm trying to buff it all out better. And I did use the wax on the very top just because that gets used so much and people bang it around. So I figured might as well use the wax on top. And I'm just really trying to see if it can get that nice gloss. Once again, I did use high gloss lacquer. It has to be, I believe, about 65 degrees, and there was no way that was going to be warm enough in my garage because it was so stinky. I have heating elements that I could have turned on, but then I can't open up the doors for keeping the stink out of the house. So this garage is attached to the main house. So if I have really stinky stuff in here, then everybody gets to experience it, which is not good. So I leave the doors open, which then makes it really bad for warmth. So here's the wax that I'm using. So I did it twice, and I'm feeling it. It feels like butter. So that is one thing. It's really, really smooth. So I do it 2 times because there's a part of me that thinks it has to work. I used to own an old Volkswagen, and it was really weather damaged, the paint job. And I remember using car wax, and oh my goodness, wouldn't it just look so beautiful? So anybody ever out there use car wax on furniture? I find that very odd. So I guess the reason why the garage door is open is so people can see the angle and the lighting. And also we have an electric buffer, but I also didn't want to use that because I didn't know if it could hurt anything. So I don't think I'm going to be doing other people's furniture after this just because I see all the errors and it makes me sad. And if it's furniture that I'm flipping to sell, when you come to my house, then you can see if you like it or not, right? If you're the person who owns and loves furniture, you don't want someone ruining it. One of the groups on Facebook that I look at, there was a woman who had amazing, beautiful table, and she got it refinished, and whoever refinished it did a horrible job, and she was so upset. And she spent a lot of money doing it, and the whole group was so sad for her. So here I'm trying to show you the shine or the lack thereof. So now I'm thinking to myself, what can I do to make this? Yeah, restore Howard Feed and Wax. Yeah, I know. I just like it so much. It smells good. It does make it look shinier. You could put it on anything. If any of you know what I could have done better, feel free to comment below, because really I spent so many hours looking at information. And I probably will not use lacquer in the future unless it's very warm outside. And where I live, it's not usually very warm outside. And then after this, I had my lovely husband bring this back into the front area of the house where it's warm. So it would dry for at least 30 minutes. And it dried for about an hour and a half. And then I buffed it up. And then we brought it to the owner's home. And she seemed very happy. And it does look better than it was, but it's not the way I wanted it to be. I really wanted it to have that really thick shine. I also buff all of the legs, you can see right here. Just get it all nice and shiny again. And I think it just is amazing how it makes things look better. Yeah, I wasn't sure what that was, but I took it off and then buffed it out. And the feet looked like they had some little like scuff marks from use, of course. So if you give them a nice wax job, then it looked newer. And people do comment that they get a little bit dizzy with my GoPro. So that's why I do 2 of these videos. One is ASMR, which is just the sound of what's going around me. And then I do ones with talking over, just because some people like to be talked to. And I most certainly do. Yeah, this is a pretty table. So here's what it looked like before. You can see how she tried to fix the errors, but some wrong color was used or something. So I removed the color and I tried to make it pretty again. So here's what it looks like afterwards on my front porch. I'm trying to get good light so people can see what it looks like. And here's the little buffing pad that I bought. So it looks pretty good. It really did feel nice. It did so smooth. Yeah, that's not bad, right? Anyway, I'm happy. So if you liked this, please subscribe, help my channel out. Have a great day. Here it is up close. And try your best. And don't forget, nobody's perfect. Different angles so you can see what it looks like. So you can see the burled wood. There's not any one direction. Yay. Wow, I took a lot of photos. And this is at her house. There you go. Please subscribe and have a great day. Bye-bye.